Well, what's funny is that we came back and I was still watching Ghostbusters with her, the new one.
Oh, is it any
Having
good?
our yeah. So far, it's pretty good.
That's
Oh,
pretty good.
okay, that's good.
We went and saw Despicable Me 4. Also, that was pretty good. It's been a good day.
It's good, man. That's real fun.
I'm, I'm still trying to recover from the heat, but that's all right.
I can tell
Mhm.
you look like a lobster. Okay, go ahead, Justin.
With what?
Starting the live.
Oh, I clicked the button as soon as you said what you want.
Hello, friends and brothers. Welcome to Masonic Improvement. I am your host, Dennis Yates, with my favorite executive assistant co-host, Justin Jones,
What up?
and all of our favorite people of our inner circle. Almost all of them, not all of them, but part of them.
They're
Glad all of y'all
all
can make it.
they're all our favorite people. How about that? Yeah, they were just talking about how Brad's like a powerhouse, a Masonic powerhouse. I'm glad I'm not the East this year because you would definitely make me look bad. So with everything
Right.
he's doing.
I'm just really, I'm learning stuff from you guys, and I'm doing what y'all told me to do, and that's
Nice.
all I'm doing.
You heard it here. I mean, we can go ahead and end early now. That's the main thing I wanted to get across.
I don't know if I
Thank
would
you.
fully listen to Dennis's advice all the time, but I mean,
Yeah.
Man, you notice he was asking Brad about the cornerstone. I already know everything there is to know about it, but you can go to another master. I get it. I get it.
What kind of water is that you're drinking right there? Is that like
Me?
Yeah, is that like crazy water? Is it,
This is alkaline, 9.5 pH, 9.5 plus pH.
huh.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah, it's,
I've been addicted to crazy water lately. That's like
Oh,
if no
yeah,
one's tried
fizzy
that. Yeah, man, it will. You'll drink some of that and you will not be thirsty for hours. Like I'm chugging water all the time, unless I get some crazy water. Then I'm just satiated for a long time.
huh.
That just sounds
We,
crazy, Justin.
we have that
Everything
too,
I
but
say
it's,
sounds crazy.
yeah. We
No,
have that at the house also. We don't drink that stuff.
what crazy water?
Yeah. Well, I don't drink that stuff. That we have it at the house, but they drink it. I don't drink it so much. I
Mm.
like the lime or lemon. I can't remember which one it is, but it tastes like Alka-Seltzer. One of my favorite tastes as a kid. I was always fascinated. Well, I was fascinated by the fizzy, and so I like to take them when I had a headache or something. And
I was more of a
so,
Flintstone vitamin kid, so I can't really relate to.
well,
I would
when you
just
start
bite the heads
drinking
off
as
and put
early
it
as
back in.
but, so what would y'all like to talk about tonight?
I just want to do a little. I'll be a little selfish here and self promote because I'm very proud of the things that they're doing at my lodge right now in Grandview. We had and I think I hit on this. Maybe I was just talking to Dennis privately, or maybe it was on a live. But the new worshipful master wanted to start hosting events to get the community involved and bring them in and stuff. And I mean, I'm just going to support my worshipful master as long as he's not breaking Grand Lodge law or doing something un-Masonic. And so I'm like, that's a great idea. However, if you want to start bringing people in here, I would assume that the purpose for that, the why behind that, is that you want to increase our visibility and ultimately attract new people to the fraternity. But if you come in here, imagine coming into this room from the outside looking in, and I said this because when you come into our lodge, you're immediately in the dining room. And we were talking in the dining room, like, look, like they had all this stuff they were wanting to raffle and things. I mean, there's just crap lining the walls everywhere. There was like it was just gross, and the towels were drooping, the ceiling towels, and then the floor towels are also not looking too good. And I was like, if you want to bring people in here, this is their first impression. People make their mind up about something in less than a second when they see it. Right? They develop preconceived notions really quickly, and so ultimately, the long story short is like we have got to do something with this room if you want to start bringing people in here. because first impressions are everything, and this is not a positive first impression. And so he kind of nodded his head. I don't really know that he really was thinking about a whole lot. And then he called me a few days ago. He's like, "Hey, I want you to let you know we already painted in here." I was like, "Oh, okay. I didn't know we were going to paint." We have been working on moving things out. We have a back room that has not been utilized properly, and so we had like a whole bunch of display cases and stuff that nobody even knew anything about the stuff in there. So we all moved all that. So we had the walls bare, and we had discussed a color, but we hadn't set a date up to paint or anything. And he called. He's like, "Hey, I want to let you know that we went ahead and painted." So I went and checked it. I was driving yesterday or the day before, and I saw cars at the lodge, and I pulled in there, and I mean the walls are nice and white now. He got a flat screen TV they were going to use to show like imagery and things that are coming up and stuff like that. And they actually the tiles were having an issue. Like not only were they turning kind of brown, but they were drooping. And so Dennis, you probably know more about this than I do, but he ran more like you ran more lines and
More
basically
rails.
I guess. So instead of having the long whatever they come in,
Yeah, you did it in halves.
yeah, they're in halves so that you
Yeah.
have more support, and it looks a lot tighter. So I'm just going to brag on my lodge because he's planning on having his first guest next week, and he is not just he, because lots of brothers went there and put the work in, but man, they're coming together, and it's looking nice. So I'm excited.
Very
about that.
nice. Very nice. Yeah, that's what Roy Burris and I did back in 2017 or 18. And the first thing that we worked on was our kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
which is like everybody else's. It's kind of what you walk into. We walk into the hall, but we also walk into the kitchen. You know, we have that little door there. We can move into the kitchen. But yeah, we taped off the entire wall because we got that, famous cedar planking that everybody loves, the old not cedar, but that wood paneling
Okay.
in our lodge. And it's historic, right? But really we just didn't want to take all the pictures off the walls with all the, past masters and stuff. So we taped all that, and then left the beadboard open, and then the ceiling open, and taped over, all the floor, everything else. And I took my sprayer in there and sprayed the ceiling with a flat um, kilts, and then I sprayed the lower level with the white paint, and man, it made all the difference in the world. Now, of course, we've got marks and stuff on the paint, so we need to really think about how we want to do this in the future, because we've got all that nice paint, and even if it was blue, it would still have the marks from people scuffing it and things like that. So we need to figure out what we want to do with that. But it, all in all, it made it look nicer, and it still looks nice when you walk in. And I got a new stove, and put a new backing on it, so that it would be better for the cooks and all that kind of good stuff. And then in my year, we did the actual lodge room, and we we pulled up the 1980s carpet, resurfaced, sanded, and painted, or not painted, but stained the floors in the lodge room. We built new. We built. Golly, I just lost my words. We built platforms to put our seating on, our stadium seating on, and stained it. We did all of that, and we completely redid that as well. And we did ours is all plaster from back in the day, right? The walls and all that kind of stuff, that's all plaster. And so we had a company come in and redo the lodge room, and the actually the lodge room and the foyer in the upstairs, and redo all the plaster, and then we had it painted and everything. I mean, we did a whole lot to Goliad, and now it's presentable for everybody. It wasn't for years and years, and when we did that, when we had something to come together around, and then everybody came in and saw it afterwards, everybody just started flocking back to the lodge.
Hmm.
And so I think that's a great thing for people to do with their lodges, just to, if nothing else, but to give people something to gather around. And because they're not always going to gather around, hey guys, let's do floor school. Hey guys, let's do this, let's do that, because they're coming to the same dreary looking place. But you have it all fresh and crisp and a new persona per se, and everybody wants to be a part of it, and everybody wants to be there more often for whatever reason.
Sometimes you need something that's tangible that they can see. It's hard to measure progress with some people when you're doing memory work and floor school, but when they show up and like, oh, the walls are nice now. They redid the floor. Oh, the ceiling looks better. That makes a big difference, and that builds excitement for like what you're talking about. And when they're excited, it's easier to like, hey, we really need to start coming to floor school. The building looks nice, but we need to be sure our work's on point now, and kind of use that as a launching off point to really dive deep into things you really got to focus on.
Yep, I agree. But then this year, Josh is getting out in the community with different events outside the lodge, which I agree. I think that that's a better way to go, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But I'm not going to say anybody's efforts in their lodges are wrong, because what works for your lodge is what works, and that's what matters.
Yep.
But I really like the fact that Josh is taking advantage of our town square, and the closeness everyone in the town feels to the square. And so when you have an event and then you make it happen in the town square, it's going to be a successful event. And he's got several planned for this year that are going to be very cool and knock it out of the park for our lodge, and shed a good light on our lodge as support for the community, instead of always asking for money from the community. So
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Do you have a courthouse, or what's the deal with the square? Was it such a big deal?
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a huge, beautiful courthouse that was built by the Masons of our town.
That's cool.
Yeah, so they have different things. Like today, we did it wasn't on the square, but we have this big, huge wooden structure that's a playground. And so we did a back to school party, is what I called it, not a drive. Drive entails that you got to bring stuff. The party was for you to come get stuff. So I cooked 160 hot dogs earlier this afternoon, and the brothers helped us put together 100 backpacks for elementary and for junior high and high school. And so we set out the park so the kids could play, and we gave out hot dogs. I was very pleased to see when we got there at 1:45, we already had a line of about 30, 40 people already there waiting for us to start passing stuff out. So we ended up passing out about 80 backpacks today. We were a few shy of the 100 we wanted to do, but we were able to pass out 80 of them, which was a good thing. And then Thursday, we have what's called downtown. What's it called? Main Street? Yeah, downtown Main Street, they call it. And so they are in charge of putting on different events. Like they'll have on Thursday, they have a back to school bash where like the booster club and the band club and all the different clubs from schools will come, and they'll have a DJ out there, and everybody will walk around the square doing stuff. So we're going to be set up selling drinks, and then whatever backpacks we have left over, we're going to get passed out. And then in October, they have a scare on the square. Everyone passes out candy and all that kind of stuff, kind of like a big trunk or treat. And so we go down there, and we have one brother that dresses up as a knight with his regalia and everything from the York Rite and all that kind of stuff. So he dresses up that way. I swear I'm going to get a Jack Sparrow costume this year and dress up as Jack Sparrow. And instead of passing out candy, I'm going to steal it like a pirate. But we'll go down there and do that kind of stuff. And And so I got the idea of the day, especially with passing out the backpacks. And we had one lady actually sign up that we had for our scholarship because we have a lot of issues that nobody here in Goliad knows we have scholarships. And so I had the information deals like, give me your name, number, and email. And when we have the scholarship application ready, we're going to email it out to you so they have it. Then I have made like little business cards made up so they have information about the lodge. And I actually my wife made a QR code that they could scan and text us to our website and all that kind of stuff so they can look at that. So, Dennis, if you see a lot more traffic on our website, that was for me. Sorry. But
That's good.
That's what it's
I
made
will
for.
never complain about traffic.
my goal this year is for us to be out more in the community to get that there's not everybody in Gilead, but there are a few people that have that stigma against us. And so I'm trying to get us more out and involved so people can see that, we're here for the community. We're here for charity. We're here to help the community. We have scholarships and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my goal for this year sitting in the East.
Yeah, I see no problem with being more active in the community. I mean, if you look historically, lodges and the Masons themselves, they were the center points of the community. Like they were the often the most integral members of the community, and the lodge was right there downtown, and it was used for a lot of things, and the community was aware of it, and they used it. And so I think anything that we can, like, if anyone says like we shouldn't be involved in the community, I would say show me a historical precedence that says we shouldn't, because I disagree fundamentally. I think
Go ahead.
I think as we grow as men, as we develop ourselves, like we say we're supposed to do in the fraternity, it's only normal that we're going to want to be involved in our community and help other people. And so to say like we shouldn't be involved, I just how could you develop as a man and not want to help your community? That's my thoughts.
One of the most ridiculous things that I hear from Masons is, we don't talk about politics and religion. Well, really we do. We just don't talk about it in the lodge room, but we do talk about it because it's an important part of what we do and what our history is. Both of them are, and so we should be able to talk about them together and to help to support those things that we care about. And that's the beauty of who can best work and agree, is that we should be able to do those things. In our town, our lodge, the first city hall was in our lodge. It was downstairs where it's rented out. The Carnine's rented out now for their business, but the first city hall was in our lodge. The newspaper was always in our lodge until they stopped publishing here in Goliad. And then our brothers, the mayor of Goliad, gave the contract to another brother in our lodge to build that courthouse. And our courthouse is one of the most beautiful courthouses you'll ever see. I mean, there's a lot of them that look like it nowadays in our around our area, but ours was done in 18. Oh my goodness, it was like 1880 something, if I remember right. But it was built by Masons. So to say that we shouldn't talk about politics and religion in our lodges is absolutely ridiculous. That's just goes to show how far away from our compass we are today, where we need to get back to. Because if we truly appreciate each other and we do this together as a community of brothers, then it doesn't matter what religion or whatever. You can actually learn from each other when you start having those conversations.
Yeah.
And so I think that's very important.
I feel like I think maybe that this whole concept that we don't talk about politics or religion probably is kind of, sometimes we have a habit of just overcompensating for things, right? And I think
the law is misinterpreted.
Well, yeah, maybe that's what it is. But I don't think if you're running for governor, you should go to every lodge and tell everyone you're running for governor and Like, this is why the other guy sucks, so you should vote for me. And no one sees you again until election comes around.
I agree.
And same thing with like religion. I think if you're like a preacher or something, that's great, but I don't think you should be going to the church to try to get more people to come to your. I mean, you shouldn't be going to the lodge to try to get more people to come to your church. It's not another place for you to do, for you to preach. And I think that was probably the original intent, and we just kind of went like, hey, not at all, not at all. But also, we've kind of got away from rhetoric. I mean, look at how divided everything is today. The lodge is not a place where that division should matter. We should be able to have conversations, and we don't get upset with each other because they have a different viewpoint. But we've kind of, unfortunately, fallen away from that. Maybe it's because we don't practice it enough. I don't know. We do have a question in chat. Should community activity be more of a product of what we do? I think
It's a byproduct. Yes.
It's a byproduct, but it's also okay if it's a byproduct in that, like I was saying, like we as Masons should be involved in our community. And what I mean by that is find a board you want to be involved with, or some community organization that means a lot to you, and be involved with that. But also, I think if a lodge wants to directly be involved, that's completely acceptable. I don't think you should say, "Hey, we gave scholarships," and pretend like that's community involvement, right? That's just taking money and giving it somewhere else. But yeah, there's.
Well, I typically.
Dennis, you might step in here real quick. My wife is, and so here's the thing with the back to school drive and why I'm so involved in wanting to give kids school supplies that can't get them is, my wife's an educator. She's been in education for 9 years now. She's stepping in her second year as a principal. So that kind of, tugs on my heartstrings a little bit when she talks about the kids that, come to school and can't have this and can't have that. And so, she asked me, she goes, "What is your goal for today? Is your goal to have, 40 brothers show up and we're in the community and we're doing this? Or is your goal to show that we're part of the Goliad community and to help some kids that needed it?" Mm-hmm. And the goal is to show that the lodge is here, whether it was just me as the worshipful master or if it was 40 brothers, we got one Mason out there. But the end goal is to help the community is what it was. And so, that was the goal when we're getting out. And that's what my goal is to show the community that we're here and we're here to help. We're not just some building on the corner right here that you see when you walk down to go to market days. Is that we're part of the community. We're everyone that's part of the lodge is part of this community as well, and that we're here to at the end of the day our main focus is charity. So we're here to help if you need it. Obviously the scholarships are one thing, but that's not the end all be all to be part of the community. It's
Exactly.
just we're here.
And I would say, like, I have a huge amount of respect for you for doing that. And it's a very different type of satisfaction knowing that you've helped a lot of people. We did something similar with York Right. Usually around Christmas, there's a local children's home, and we'll collect presents and send them to those kids that wouldn't otherwise get anything, right? And it's. If someone wants, I'm not saying don't do scholarships. If that's important to a lodge, do your scholarships. But don't just write that off and say we're involved in our community because we wrote a few checks. Doing stuff like what you're talking about, finding when you rise up, it's important that you lift others around you, right? And because otherwise you're just like this hot air balloon and everyone's just looking up at you. The whole point of bettering yourself is to better those around you. And
Right.
if you can find a cause, and like I really like what you did, because I was thinking if I mean we got a good PTO, so we didn't have to do anything like that, but I was thinking that would be something that would be good for a lodge if they were able to do something like that. And so I'm not saying like I'm not trying to be disparaging or anything. I'm just saying like something more than just writing a check really goes a long way, and I think that's great what you did.
Well, we're in Goliad. We're a small community. We're not a big city that you don't have those kind of things going on. In big cities, you don't have a whole lot of the I don't know, the sense of community. You don't have the sense of community in big city lodges. It's it's plain and simple, and you're not going to get as much um, unless you adopt a particular school. You're not going to be able to give the same kind of reach that what Josh did today would get. The 80 backpacks or 100 backpacks for our students in Goliad is a big deal. We only have 2,000 people in Goliad. So our schools are small, and that makes a big impact on our kids. And what a lot of people don't realize is with these small towns, you've got a certain demographic that you don't have so much in the big city, or at least you don't see it in the big city like we do. You have either very well off people or very poor people in a small town like this. There's not a whole lot of gray in between. You have people that are doing very well because they have good jobs, and you have people that are just suffering. And so when something like this happens to where you're given to the community like Josh is doing, it's not the well off coming out to pat themselves on the back and everybody get a free something because they want something free. It's people that really need it that are coming in to receive these backpacks. And so I just want to say um this is not anything like what a PTO could handle, because it's just too vast, and there's not much of a PTO.
Oh yeah. And that was the cool thing today is as we're doing it, obviously my wife and kids were down there helping doing everything. And she worked here in Goliad for years, so she knows some of the kids, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I know that kid." And yeah, and it put a smile on her face that we could actually help that kid because she knows the situation that child is in. And it was just great to see, people come out and get that kind of stuff. So I thought it was good.
No, I have a soft spot
Yeah.
for. I used to work in a really high poverty school district, and kids would go home. They didn't even know their parents were going to be there, right? I had kids that sophomores in high school that wouldn't show up because they were working part time. But it's more important for them to make money to feed their siblings because parents are nowhere around than to go to school. And so that takes I mean, in many of those situations, that it comes down to, do we buy school supplies or do we buy food or clothes? And so that really is huge. Again, that's a great thing.
And the other thing is they kept asking us, why don't you just do it during the back to school bash? And the other thing, we could have incorporated with another organization to everything, but I think sometimes when we do things like that, especially here in Goliad when we do market days and stuff like that, we kind of fall into the background and oh yeah, we saw the lodge table, but okay, whatever. That's why I kind of wanted to be a standalone event so people could see. Not for a pat on the back or anything, but so that people could see the lodge is actually here in the community and not just part of another event that's going on downtown. So I wanted people to actually
something that somebody attaches themselves to, so that they can get their advertising.
Right.
Because that's what happens with those big bashes in the Scare on the Square and all that kind of stuff. All those events, it's a heavy marketing for those people that are selling.
Main Street Goliad put this event on. We just happened to be there.
Right. And Main Street Goliad is all about. Main Street Goliad is all for their whole reason for being in place is to promote and market downtown Main Street events for marketing purposes to bring attention to the square. That's their whole job.
And that's what I kept getting asked. Like, why don't you just do it Thursday? I was like, I don't want to do it Thursday. I want us to have our own event, and this is what we want to do. So, like I said, my goal was 100. I passed out 80. Hey, I met well over 75% of my goal, so I'm happy with it.
What are you going to do with the remaining ones?
We can get rid
So
of
since
it.
we're going Thursday to the back to school bash, we're gonna pass them out there, which
Good
there'll be a whole lot more kids there on Thursday and everything. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
And
I'm
if there's yeah, and if there's any left over, then I know a few of the young teachers there that could get them distributed for us.
yeah, and we got very basic things. I mean, we got paper, composition notebooks, pencils. The one thing my wife was adamant on, like this was a non-starter, is we got them all earbuds and headphones because schools require headphones and earbuds nowadays. Unlike when we were going to school and we needed number two pencils and big cheap tablets. So she made sure all the headphones and earbuds were in the backpacks because a lot of times I'm one of those parents myself going, the kids don't need earbuds. I'm not going to spend $40 on a pair of
Right.
headphones that they're going to break and lose. And my wife was like, nope, we're buying them. I'm like,
That's
okay,
funny.
yes, ma'am, we're going to do it.
I'm that same person too. We have those arguments all the time. That's funny.
All the time. School supplies are ridiculous, but like I said, it was not everything they needed, but it was a good starter pack. Pens, pencils, notebook, paper, erasers, glue, stuff like that. So
Everything helps.
the backpacks weren't very stylish, but hey, you know what? It may be something that's maybe the only backpack that kid's gonna get this year. So I was like, it is what it is.
Love it, man. That's great.
I I think it went off. I think it was successful. We did have a couple brothers come out and sit there. Bill and Tom both come out, Dennis, and they sat there. So
Nice.
that was good.
That's
So-
why Tom was texting, damn it.
Yeah, Tom was there, gun on hip and everything. So yeah, he was there.
Man, that's funny. That's funny. Well, he should have brought
Yeah.
one of his guitars and played for the kids.
Well, we did have my other friend showed up, and her son is learning how to play guitar, so he did sit there and strum a few bars and everything. So,
Nice.
But-
Nice.
like I said, that's my goal for this year is just for us to get out in the community so people can see that we're here and kind of get rid of that stigma that we have sometimes with being part of Masonic Lodge, which I'm trying to hopefully in Goliad will get rid of. Probably not completely rid of, but at least down to a bare minimum.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of the Catholic folks in Goliad, and even they don't have a real big stigma. It's more of the Lutherans than anybody, and
Yeah,
not
it's-
and not the ones out in the country, the ones in town that really.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up. So when we did my installation, I invited, brought my parents in, and then I call them my second parents. They're my mom and dad's best friends, and my second mom and my second dad. And we went through the whole installation part and everything, and then we got done. We went downstairs and we're talking, and she went, "Okay, I have so many questions." It's like, all right, let's start from the beginning. And she had no idea. In the little town that I grew up in, there is a lodge there, and I've been in the lodge now. I knew one when I was growing up. I knew one guy that was part of the lodge. He was a local mechanic, but the Catholic Church over there, they don't have a clue. And so she was asking a whole bunch of questions like, what is this? What is that? What do y'all do here? And she just was like, really? Like, yeah, this is what we do. And they were clueless, so that kind of solidified my reasoning for like getting out of the community because people just don't know what we do. They just have no clue. And so that's why one of the goals is to try to get that more out there so people know like we're not a secret society. We're a society with secrets, as Ken Booth tells me all the time.
It's real good. I love it. How did not to sidetrack, but I wanted to ask Brad about the cornerstones. I heard like the end of it. But I didn't how did that go with your cornerstones and everything?
Well, we did the school first, and for whatever reason, I guess it's probably like what I was saying before you started recording is when we were doing the cornerstones, we did the school first, and it being summer and only a couple of weeks left of summer left, and on a Saturday, I think the school district just didn't want to, take time out of their day to do that, um, which is sad. But we do have 8 other schools being built right now, and I think we could get cornerstones on all of them. So we're really growing out here. But anyway, nobody showed up for the cornerstone for the school except us. But there was like 40 of us.
Nice.
So that was fun. And at the end of it, it was in the library. We did it in the library, which is kind of upstairs, and they had a slide going down from the upstairs. And Brad Billings.
Oh, is
went
that where that
sliding
picture
down
came from? Okay.
Yeah, he went sliding down, and then the Grandmaster's wife went sliding down, and I slid down, and
Nice.
then the Grandmaster slid down, and when he slid down, he leaned back on his back with his back, and he I guess his coat and just everything was slick, and he went flying down there, man. It was really cool.
Everybody panicked.
Yeah, everybody's like, "Oh my god!"
That's right.
So
So that was fun. Like that ended like the school one, and then we all hauled over to the police station, and the Grandmaster took a wrong turn, so we were all waiting for the Grandmaster to show up, and it took a while. So we started that one late, but he did a great job, and there was a lot of the community there with police officers and their families, and they did tours of the police station afterwards, and it was really good.
were you hoping
it was a
for
good
a bigger turnout at the Cornerstone?
Yeah, the police station was actually really good. There was probably 80 or 90 people there. So, and the town has a newspaper. The Greenville has a newspaper, and the guy was taking pictures for the newspaper. So, hopefully,
Nice.
I'll check that out, see if I can find a newspaper clipping of it or something.
So,
Very cool.
What was your most important takeaway from this event? What do you feel like you came away with the most?
So y'all know Dallas Jones.
Sounds familiar.
He was worshipful master of the lodge in Wiley last year. Anyway, he posted a picture of a guy sweating, and he goes, "This was Brad Hoff with all the Grand Master and committee on work and everybody."
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And anyway, but the funny thing is that the biggest takeaway I got from it is like they were not there judging me. They were there, and they were my brothers, and I felt like they were all members of my lodge, and I felt fully supported and loved. And I had never opened. Well, I had opened my lodge one time last year. I had to sit in for the worshipful master, but I had never opened my lodge as worshipful master of the lodge yet. So,
Nice.
and the first time I did it was right in front of everybody. So it was fun. It was I had a really great time.
Hey,
So-
it doesn't get harder than that, right? So everything else is going to be easy. Opening all the rest of these lodges down.
I expected to be a little more nervous than I was, but it wasn't. Like I said, I felt really loved and supported, so it was great.
That's awesome, man.
Hey, Cody, you had something? What you got, Cody?
Oh,
Yeah, just wanted to go back to talking about the Grandmaster sliding down that slide at the school. They say if you don't have pictures, it didn't happen, right? Not only do we have pictures, we have video of the Grandmaster and her Grand Secretary and our First Lady sliding down those stairs, and Brad as well. So if you guys want some good material, maybe to hold over somebody's head, I'm not saying that anyone would do that.
Good pictures for the Grand Lodge Communications for next month.
There you go.
I'm just saying, someone changed the pictures on the Grand Lodge website, so all the officers now have like going down slides.
That works. So you were talking about being in the hot seat, with Brad being in the hot seat last Saturday. Guys, I don't know if he has ice water in his veins or what, but you would have never known that this wasn't just a practice night for him. Everything he did and said during the opening, the closing, calling off, the whole bit was just like you would want somebody to be. It wasn't a first-time worshipful master sitting up there. I can't brag on this guy enough. Of course, he has Brother Harry Clark, one of our at-large district instructors, as one of his mentors. Harry's been one of my mentors for years and years. And that can have a calming effect just having Brother Harry in the room with you. So, Brad, again, awesome job. And just keep it up. Keep it up. You're going to do great things.
Yeah, I always don't mess up when Harry's there because I'm watching him, and when I'm saying the words, because like if I say something wrong, he goes like this. He goes. I go, oh,
Nice.
I knew I got that wrong.
At least he doesn't blurt it out.
Should have said A instead of this. Gosh.
Nice.
Now you got to start all over.
I've seen worse. Don't worry. In a lot better condition, I've seen worse.
Absolutely. But talking about Dallas Jones, he was in the South for the representation. I don't know that I've ever seen anyone who was more into that role than Dallas was that day. There's no way I can describe it. I can only try to imitate it. But you got to see it in person to know what it was he was doing. But he was, I think, the most excited person in the representation. He did a great job.
I can't wait till September then when we come up and you can show us.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We can act the whole thing out. Yes, sir.
Nice.
It's going to be fun.
Well, I had a cool thing happen this week. I got to, for the first time, I was a guest speaker at my own lodge in Goliad. And that was kind of cool. Yes.
What'd you talk about?
And, well, it's pretty interesting, and I'm probably going to do the same thing over at Victory Lodge as well. But I was downstairs, and I had this big old presentation I had written. It was actually the second one that I wrote. This
11 pages, by the way, if I can comment on that.
That's exactly right. Now that's normal for me. 11 to 15 pages is what I write for a presentation. If I go somewhere, I don't expect to be there. If I'm spending that much time driving in and driving out and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going to spend less than 20 minutes talking, because I came there for a reason, not to just spend 5 minutes and go home.
Yeah.
But this was my home lodge, and I went downstairs and I'm eating dinner, and one of my old mentors, Joe K. Hooten, is sitting there, and I thought that he knew that I was going to give a presentation. I didn't know that Josh had not told anybody that I was going to give a presentation. So he probably wanted to make sure people showed up, right? So
That's exactly right.
I had no idea that he didn't know, and I didn't say anything. But he was just going off about, long lodges and this and that. He just thinks that they ought to be quick and concise and this and that. And he wasn't using concise as the word, though. But he was talking about, all that. And I said, well, we had a show the other day talking about, when you're starting a program for education, that you really need to make sure your business is taken care of quickly, so that it gives the speaker the opportunity to speak, and not making him rush through it or feel bad or wasting his time to where he can't get back home on time. So we had talked about all that. So anyways, I get up there and I set down the paper on one of the window sills, and I said, you know what, I can't give that presentation. And so I just got up, walked around, gave the presentation, starting from the pillars and walking around and asking different brothers questions, putting them on the spot. That was awesome. I've never seen Mike stammer like he did when I asked him about what the what was said in Psalms and making him repeat it right there in front of the lodge without any practice or anything. That was awesome.
Yeah, he
My
stuttered there for a second.
Yeah, he did. He did, and he looked concerned when I first asked him. It was like a deer in the headlights, and that's probably because he hadn't had to do it in a while because these young guys have started taking over doing the EAs and stuff, and so he hadn't had to do it in a while. But I thought that was awesome that the the apprentice becomes the master, right? Just putting him to task, and then through giving the presentation, I start talking about the Bible and contents in it. Well, one of our brothers is a pastor for a church, and a Lutheran pastor, by the way, not the one that's in town, but another one that's right out of town. And and I put him to task also. I asked him where he finds the checkerboard pavement, and he said, well, King Solomon's temple. I said, well, where is it in the Bible? Because there's only one place it's in the Bible, right? And then so we went on through that, and I had asked about some other stuff, but it really turned out, to be a really good presentation. And at the end of it, not only did Joe Cahoon come up to me and say that it was a good presentation, but then the pastor did, and then so did two other brothers. That one of them is not Church of Scientology, but it's a Church of Science. I've never visited, so I'm not really sure what that is. But they're very serious about their Christianity. And he said, "Oh boy, I feel bad for whoever has to come behind you, because they're not gonna be received the same way."
Well,
And
now I know who you're talking about, but
do what?
I said, now I need to know who you're talking about.
Well, it was our past sheriff,
Oh, yep,
our county commissioner,
yep.
and he came up there and he said, "You really moved me." That really made me feel like it was worth it doing what I did, and because him and Lynn were back there, and they both came up to me and said that they were touched by that presentation. So that was kind of cool. That was kind of cool. For the first time ever, I felt like the hero in my.
Well, sometimes
As much as it pains me to say this, but yes, Dennis did do a good job on Thursday. So. And
Thank you.
and to Joe's defense, the problem has been and this year I'm bringing a lot of education to Goliad. I've got a speaker lined up for every month except for about 3 of them. But this past Thursday was my first stated meeting. So I haven't had an opportunity to tell everybody, hey, this is what we're going to do this year. So everyone's kind of like, oh, apparently I shouldn't treat people like mushrooms is what I got told. But so it was,
That's right.
Yeah. I've got a lot of things lined up for Goliath, a lot of speakers and stuff like that. So, which is what we need. But Dennis, I wanted Dennis to be our inaugural first speaker since this is his lodge, and Dennis is right down the road, so I didn't have to pay for a hotel or anything.
well,
hopefully it kicked it off right there. That's what I was hoping.
You did.
Sounds like it. And sometimes the best presentations are not the ones that you had planned. Sometimes it's just from the heart on the spur of the moment. So
right.
That's good. You got to trust your gut.
I totally pulled that one out of my heart. For sure.
And you can tell he did.
Pages 12 through 21.
Well, and I tried to speak on things that would make a difference to the members that were there too. I knew that it would be better for those members that were there to hear that kind of a presentation. That's one of the things. That's why I always ask, what the person that asked me to speak, what they want me to speak on, because it really does. If I can cater it to what's on the minds of the lodge, or what the concerns of the lodge are at the moment, because that's going to be on everybody's mind, then I think that we can make those connections and make it mean a little bit more than if you just give some dry canned speech.
Yeah. Which is why I'm not a huge fan of short talks. And so
Right.
I prefer stuff that's written. So yeah, that's good. I'm proud of you, buddy. Good job.
So
Yeah.
Jason, hopefully it'll work out in victory too.
Yeah, well, it better.
You staked
Yeah.
your reputation on it.
There you go.
I'm sure that meeting will be very victorious.
No, in all honesty, no joking around. Dennis did do a great job on Thursday, and I really do appreciate him coming to kick off the 24-25 Masonic year of education here in Goliad. So I really enjoyed it. I did.
Thank you. It was an honor. Thank you for having me, for sure.
It's awesome.
So I was watching since we went into a silence here. I was watching Ghostbusters right before coming on here, and they're talking. You know, this girl is a ghost, and she says that she guessed she has unfinished business here. She wasn't sure. So let me ask you, brothers, what do you think could constitute unfinished business to keep you from the afterlife, if that's an actual thing? What in your mind would constitute unfinished business?
If I was on the schedule to come into work on Monday, but I died on Sunday, I wouldn't want to leave everybody just kind of hanging there. So I'd be sure I showed up and carried my weight.
Yep. Make sure you greet the principal.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure you show up for practice on your practice night. That's always unfinished business.
Yes.
Not knowing who to call.
There you go. That's a big problem. I just practice being Tyler and just bang on things in the lodge.
Oh my gosh.
No, I don't know. I hadn't really thought of that. As long as my family's well taken care of, I wouldn't feel like I missed anything. That's kind of my big thing. I don't want to go before everything's kind of laid out for them, if that makes sense.
You don't have any great work on your heart that you feel like you need to take care of before you die? Besides that, I mean, that's a given. I think everybody can say, well, as long as my family's taken care of, the kids love me, blah blah blah. What about you as an individual? We all have this driving force within that pushes us to be the people that we are, and pushes us to try to achieve the things that we try to achieve. So you don't have any great works inside that you would feel like you haven't accomplished yet, that you really wanted to accomplish before you died?
No, my great works are all in bed right now.
Oh my goodness. Man. And I thought you were deeper than that. I guess I need to start my own podcast.
I'm a mile wide and an inch deep, buddy. What are you talking about?
I guess it's good that somebody represents.
I think it'd be kind of hard to determine that, but the better question I think would be is if something happened and you were still stuck here, is to go find in your heart what was keeping you here. You know what I mean? Because like what Justin said, he's like, I'm the same way. As long as my family's taken care of and my kids are okay, my wife's okay, yeah. But if I'm still stuck here, it's like, okay, why am I still stuck here? Like what's in my heart or my mind that's not making me be able to go to the, undiscovered country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. What do you got, Jason?
No, I have actually kind of thought of this somewhat because I think for me, I think I'm still kind of searching for what my great work is, because ultimately, at least for me, you want to kind of leave this world being remembered for making some sort of difference. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I can't seem to divest myself or divest myself from any of the stuff that I'm doing, because I don't know where I don't know which one is supposed to be my great work. So right now it's kind of like I'm trying to still trying to do everything, because honestly, I at this point, there were a lot of things early in my life that didn't pan out, and so now, I kind of feel like I'm about 20 years behind. So that's probably one of the reasons why, you know, oh well, do you do Scottish Rite, or you do York Rite, or you do Blue Lodge? And I'm kind of like a lot of us, I'm kind of like, yeah, yep, I do those, all of them, as much as I can, because ultimately I don't know where, at what point, where I'm best actually suited at, and so, but I think ultimately it'd be, to leave this world and be remembered that you did something that made a difference. I think is to me is kind of what motivates me right now.
Yep. You know what's interesting is when I was younger, there was a time I wanted to be a police officer because I wanted to help people. And then there was a time a little later on, even though I was, working on cars and building transmissions at the time, kind of had this feeling I wanted to be a pastor. And um, I'm glad I didn't at this point because of the things that I believe today, that would put me in conflict for doing that, for being a pastor and being responsible for so many people's salvation. But a couple of weeks ago we were having dinner with some friends from gymnastics, and they asked what I do, and I said, well, I have all these irons in the fire, blah blah blah, and go around speaking. And my wife said, yeah, he travels everywhere. He's a preacher of Freemasonry. And I started thinking about it, and I thought, man, that's true, because I try to motivate and bring a call to action to everyone I speak to. And so I feel like I'm kind of in the middle of my great works at this point. And
You're
I'm
more like a
writing,
Masonic evangelist.
right? And what's funny is when she first said that, in my mind, I saw Steve Martin, and I know a few of y'all will know what I'm talking about his. I can't remember that movie, but Cody, can you remember that movie with Steve Martin and
The Jerk?
No, not The Jerk. He was an
The Three
evangelist.
Amigos.
No, not you guys. Y'all are just too young. Y'all are just too young.
Help me out. Give me a clue.
There was the one where he was the evangelist going around in a tent. He was a fake evangelist going around in a tent, collecting money from healing people and stuff like that. And finally got to this point, this one town where, it was a small town, and he realized that there was more to this thing than just, being a con artist, taking people's money for Christ, or taking people's money. You don't remember that?
I don't know how old you think I am, buddy, but I'm way too young to remember that one.
You're my age,
Leap
so
of
don't you?
faith.
Leap of faith. You just looked it up, didn't you? See,
No,
that's the young guy.
somebody said it in the chat.
Oh, I was going to say
nice.
airplane.
Thank you. That
I
was
wouldn't have gotten there.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Anyways, y'all should see it since y'all haven't seen it. It's a hilarious movie. But that's the first thought that I had, was leap of faith. But yeah, so I think that I may be in the middle of it right now, but I'm not sure. I hope so. But you never really know, right? I could completely fail at this and then go on to, invent the first floating car. Who knows?
Those are called boats, Dennis.
I think highly of myself. Floating boats.
It'll be like a car, but on water, and we'll put the motor in the back. You can fish off of it.
When you have friends like these.
Now, if they can make a car that went underwater, like subwater, like submarine.
Oh my gosh!
that'd
Okay, that's enough. You're just. I would say you're digging yourself a hole, but really you're just sinking.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I mean, have any of y'all ever thought of that? I mean, I kind of like Josh's answer too. That he'd be trying to figure out what he didn't do, because that's kind of the idea, is that if you're stuck, it's because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And that's a tough scenario, because in free will, you are actually doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because you have free will. But is it really what the Creator meant for us to do?
Well,
and
if
is
you're dead,
that why
it's too late to worry
stuck?
about it.
And would that be why you were stuck?
I don't think ghosts are what people think they are, so I can't really.
Well, speak your mind. Speak your truth.
There's a great analogy to kind of what I believe. You had a older couple, and one day the wife was sitting in the living room. She looked at the doorway, and she saw the ghost of 3 kids standing there at the doorway. And she screamed and went and got her husband. She's like, "There's a ghost. There's 3 of them." He's like, "Oh, that's, We looked around. There's nothing." He's like, "You're just imagining things." Older couple, they pass away. And sometime later, a family moves in. They got 3 kids. And the kids are walking into the living room. And they see the ghost of a woman sitting in a chair in the living room. And they scream and they run away. And so... from a physics perspective, there's not really, time and space don't really exist, and so I think ghosts are like a almost like a recording somehow, or maybe just us seeing across time and space. If you look at a lot of hauntings, they're very. I had an aunt; she had a house in one of the towns, and a ghost would walk through the living room, same way, same path, and it's just almost like a recording. And so there's like a whole rabbit hole with that. But I think like are there spirits, and can they communicate? Are there things that are different than ghosts that can cause things to happen? Yes. You got poltergeists and things like that. That's a whole other thing, I think. But like when people commonly think like an apparition, or like this guy died and his ghost is walking around, I think it's more like you're just seeing something that happened, or something that maybe will happen, or like a recording of an event. That's just my perspective on that.
Well, Justin, let me ask, have you had any spiritual encounters?
Yeah, I have. I would think it's more of a almost like a poltergeist thing, but yeah, I don't want to go down like maybe around Halloween or something. I don't want to like get too far from the Masonic thing on here, but yeah, there was a few pretty crazy events. I mean, I've been in some pretty paranormal experiences, but yeah, I nothing that I've seen, just more like sounds and things like that, which I would categorize as something else.
Like I said, we can go down that rabbit hole one day, but
Yeah, we could do one.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll wait till we're closer to Halloween or something. But I mean, it's like Nat Washer Lodge. They have something similar to what I experienced with the I guess their lodge room. I haven't visited yet, but their lodge room is on a like the second story, and they can hear footsteps going up the stairs. And
yeah, they have 2 stories and a basement.
Yeah, I think the basement. I watched a live stream or just a video where they go in that basement. It's freaky. I was uncomfortable just watching the video, but I don't know. You can't really, just like anything else, you can't really just group everything like a lump. Different things kind of get lumped together that aren't necessarily identical. But yeah, that's my 2 cents since you invited me to tell you.
Well, I'm interested. I always want to know. I believe in physics as well, and that we're basically all we turn into particles and reform into this thing we call God, and which basically we get absorbed into the atmosphere, right, or absorbed into the ground, whatever. We get absorbed into this place, and I think that that's part of God, part of our Creator, part of a bigger thing.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that we do have this spirit that our mind and conscience creates that, I don't know. I wonder sometimes if we lose that too. This is a pretty tough discussion on a podcast and probably a depressing one for some people.
Do you mean almost like your identity, like your ego?
Yeah, we definitely lose ego.
You're reunited with something greater?
Yeah, when we study Kabbalah, we definitely know that there's a point where you're losing your ego and you become one with something greater. But I wonder if that's one in spirit as well, or just one in a metaphysical kind of a way.
Have you heard the story of the egg?
No.
Long story short, it's like a whole thing you could read. I think it's called The Egg. But basically a person dies and he's sitting, next thing you know, he's kind of looking at his life and review, and there's another person there with him, and he's like, what happened? He's like, well, you died, but if it makes you feel any better, your wife will remarry you and your kids will be very successful and yada yada yada. He's like, oh, okay. Well, what happens now? He's like, well, you're going to go back. This time you're going to be like a Chinese girl in the 1400s. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, this is part of your process of developing as a soul. Is you go and have experiences, and then you die, and you come back and review it, and then you forget it and go back. And the more time you spend here, the more you remember things. Basically, it's just a process of developing, curating you as a soul to be the best version of yourself. And the only way to actually do that is to continue to experience in this mortal realm. And so ultimately,
like reincarnation.
Yeah, it's like reincarnation, but it's
just call it what it is.
Well, yeah, but ultimately he's like, who are you? Who's this other guy? He's like, well, I'm God. And so it's not like a Hindu, like there's no God or anything like that, but he's like, I'm God and you're part of me, right? And this is what happens. This is how we all grow through these experiences. And so I always thought that was kind of something that had a lot of merit. That's kind of my mentality. But it's like you're saying also, ultimately, like you I think when going by that same token, like if that was the thing, if that was what, I'm not saying it is, but I'm just saying if it was, and ultimately, like you've gone through all your incarnations and you start to remember everything you've gone through, you're going to lose your identity. You're going to lose the ego. You're not going to forget. It doesn't mean you forget like your experiences and the people that you loved and the things that shaped you and who you are. But when you have so many experiences, you can't have an ego. You can't have like this identity, because you are all these things. You are all these. It's.
I think we go through these things in life already.
I agree.
In our different cycles, in our different points of life, as we make connections with different people,
mm-hmm.
and those people shape our existence as who we are today. We think that we made ourselves who we are today, but and we do have a lot of that. We ultimately do. However, we do that based off the input we learn from others and other things that go on around us, as well as TV, as podcasts and things like that. This is all data that we use to shape ourselves. And I think that, like, as we move from one circle of friends or brothers to another, and through different periods of life, we we tend to reinvent ourselves each time, and we hold on to a little bit of the past, but we are still forming into something new each time we evolve. I think that reincarnation actually happens during our lifespan, um, if we just realize those moments where well, we call them aha moments, when we have those aha moments of, you know understanding something, a new concept.
Yeah.
That could be that moment where that's the defining moment of that reincarnation, is that, or that rebirth of the spirit, because you just realized that you have been learning this, and now boom, now I'm into this new spot, and my conscience is finally caught up with my spirit, or my spirit's finally caught up with my conscience, and here we are.
Well, if you also remember, the cycle you're describing is a big aspect of Hermeticism. And I don't think it's exclusive of anything we talked about. It's this constant cycle of birth and dying and rebirth. And you're right, we do go through that. I haven't conceived. It's like, I used to believe that a lodge should only be focused on like education and things like that. And then through talking with brothers over time, I've kind of come to adopt, like, hey, it's more of a well-rounded approach. Like, there's a place for everybody in the fraternity, but I had a preconceived notion, and it lived its life out, and then it basically died, and a new notion, a new thought, was reborn and took its place. And this happens. You're right. This happens in us on a macro scale, like cellular, but also mentally, in the form of like notions and ideas, and ultimately daily, like the day-night cycle, and ultimately when we pass away. It's if I'll just say this, and I'm not trying to push anything, but we're just thinking, right? Rhetoric. If when you die, nothing else happens, that would be the only thing in nature that is not cyclical. That would be the only thing that we can observe that is not cyclical in some way in existence.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's reincarnation. It may be heaven. I don't know, but there is something. There has to be. There has to be something, because the thought of there just being nothing at death, when you die, you're dead and is nothing. That makes no sense. That makes no sense when you compare it to everything else in nature.
Right.
Everything y'all are talking about, from the Ghostbusters thought of unfinished business to what you just said, I've been thinking about, through this conversation and you listening to y'all, I've been thinking about my life. And as a kid, I was really selfish, and it was all about me. And as I grow up, and as I moved out on my own, I was still pretty selfish. It was because it was all about me. And then I met my wife, and I became a little less selfish because it came more about her. And as I joined Masonry, become less about me, and more about how I can help my brothers. And just like you're talking about, it's just this cycle of things that keep changing. How my life becomes less and less about me and more about other people.
Mm-hmm. I think that's
You know
normal.
what's interesting?
Go ahead, Dennis.
I just going to say it's interesting that you say that, because ultimately it's been said that, that's when you die, is when your business is finished. So in life, you start to gradually become less and less about yourself and more about everyone else. And that's when you're ready to die.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's when it's easier for us to die as well, because we feel like we don't have so much unfinished business, because it's not about us. It becomes about everyone else. And we think, well, okay, everybody's okay. Time I can let go and just, go on to the next stage.
Yeah. No,
But that's interesting. I thought that many times.
yeah. I still want to live as long as I can. If you could throw my brain in a jar, give me a robot body, I'm down, man. But I will say, like what you describe, I think is normal for human nature. I got 3 of them right now, and I can tell you they're selfish. Kids are selfish, and I think genetically they have to be. Not genetically, but biologically, a kid has to be selfish, right? Because they need so many things, and they have to self-advocate for that. But and even in my early up to my early 20s. I was a selfish guy. Like I think sometimes about
And 30s.
30s, but I think sometimes about the things I did, like the relationships I had with people, in the way I only looked at it through my perspective, and I was like, man, I wish I could track people down and apologize to them, right? But I don't think that's unique to me. I think that's normal for a lot of people. As we get older, like Dennis is saying, we get more aware of what's going on around us, right? Like I think like your body is pretty much done developing, and you don't have to focus on you as much as you can. Like, okay, I'm going to start focusing on the people around me now. Puberty was 20 years ago. I'm not getting any taller. My body's done like doing all these things. I'm going to start looking at the world around me and paying attention and reflecting on the things that I did and growing from that. I'm sorry I said puberty, Dennis. I'm sorry. I know you're very...
I know.
You're
I
very...
know it made me sensitive.
you got triggered.
I would like to say that it's not everyone that they get old, because people, not everyone works towards their better self throughout life.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are happy the way they are. And, in fact, Josh, I hope you enjoy the White Rabbit that I wrote for this last newsletter that we did.
I did. If you could only submit it a little bit sooner, that'd be great. But it was good. Good talk.
Well, and I meant to do that sooner, but I actually it spurred out of the talk on Thursday. But I think that that's one of the things that Masonry has taught me personally, and I don't think it teaches all of us that, because some of us aren't interested in. Some of us are okay being the mundane, following some of us are the traveler, and some of us are the traveling man with purpose. So when we travel with purpose, then there's always some kind of work that we should be working on, and we know that. When we're just a traveler, we're okay with who we are and what we are and where we are in life, and have no desire to do anything but just walk the path. We're just walking the path. But some of us are trying to make that path more dynamic for the masses and better for others around us as we go along. And some of us are just walking the path. And we have to decide if that's what we want to be, or if we want to, do more for others around us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that when we just walk the path, we don't learn those lessons that help humble us. And I got to tell you, sometimes it comes with sticking your foot in your mouth to learn those lessons of humility. And it's embarrassing and it sucks. But sometimes we don't put ourselves out there to do that. So we need to be aware of where we are, and if we are putting ourselves out there to learn those lessons that are going to help us grow and become more humble and more interested in helping those around us instead of just ourselves.
Ego is the enemy, man. That's what keeps us from learning from our own mistakes. And I'll also say, like, if I'm being honest, being selfish is way more advantageous for you as a person, right? And some people embrace that and adopt that, and they live their entire miserable life being that way. And you're absolutely right; they don't grow because they're focused so much on them and what is most advantageous to them that's the route they go. But I feel like focusing on others is more advantageous in a very different way. Being selfish is advantageous in a physical way, right, in this life. But looking out for others, helping other people, lifting them up is more advantageous on a spiritual level, I believe.
Right. Well, and we've had issues with other brothers this past year to where, we've had differences that have split friendships this past year.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurts me because I would rather not have that split friendship. I would rather us be able to see it as a growing opportunity for us both and move on and become better men and Masons together. But it ultimately, some people aren't looking for the same things.
I wasn't thinking about that, but when you pointed it out, you're right. And selfishness and Freemasonry are incompatible with each other.
Right.
At least if you're not willing to change, if you're not willing to grow, if you insist on being selfish, the fraternity has can you be a selfish Mason? Absolutely. And in fact, like I said, it's advantageous. It might even get you far, but it doesn't mean you're a good person or a good Mason. It just means you're a member that is taking advantage of people.
Right. Well, there's the fraternity aspect, there's the fraternal aspect, and then there's the brotherhood aspect, in my opinion.
Mm.
A lot of times we see that as the same, but really it's not. I have a hard time believing. So in my talk with the White Rabbit, it was about it started off talking about ritualists who get stuck on just the ritual and can't move past that and can't go deeper into the conversation of what that ritual represents. And I believe that the hierarchies in our fraternity were created with the first Grand Lodge. That before that, and in a few years before that, that's when it all started. People started wanting to have a hierarchy because there were so many lodges starting to pop up. However, I have a hard time believing that the brotherhood of philosophers and theologians out there had any desire to have this hierarchy. They had no desire to have this Grand Lodge or whatever. They just wanted to philosophize and enlighten each other. And I think that sometimes we get stuck in that sometimes we get stuck in that physical and not the spiritual aspect of things.
Well,
and
the United States was founded to be it's founded by Masons for the most part, to be a very decentralized government, basically, right? And the same mentality that they used when they were writing the articles that formed the country at that time was the same mentality that, where do you think they got it from? Where do you think it came from, right? And so I agree. Like I mean, if you really strip it down, I know where I don't want to say it, but I know where you're going with it. But if you really stripped it down, I mean, how much? I mean, what do you really need?
Right.
You know?
Well, anyways, that's just a thought that I had with while I was writing that, and it came from the discussion I had on Thursday, and it was, trying to prepare people for the education portion, because we've been a headstrong group in ritual, and not that I don't, don't agree with that, because I believe that we should have good ritual. Otherwise, we don't know what we're philosophizing about, right? We're really learning what the ancients wanted us to learn if we're not paying attention to the ritual? So I think that there's a place for it, but I think that, to think that that's all there is, and I think that when we have brothers that are like that think that way, I think that's where you have the difference between the traveler, the ones that are just happy traveling, and the ones that want to travel with purpose. And, they're the ones who are digging into what that ritual means, because they have a purpose for doing it. They're not just joining a fraternity. They want to be a part of a brotherhood that has a deeper sense of connection, I think.
That's a good point, man.
So it's inspiring to me when these guys are bringing in this education to their lodges, because I know that that's what ultimately they're trying to do is provide that for the lodges.
It's good to see it happening. There was a time when you didn't, and so I'm glad to see it.
And now it's hard to find a spot for me to book for somebody to be able to show up. It's happening so much. There was a time when I wanted, I was calling people saying, "Hey, you gotta, you need somebody to talk or whatever." And nowadays it's like there's so many people doing it that even with all the other people that are speaking out there, they're getting filled up, and I'm getting filled up a lot faster than what it was even 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just exploded.
I've read about a time when there used to be Masonic, I don't want to say Masonic evangelists twice in one episode, right? But that's what they were. That's what they did. They traveled from lodge to lodge and gave presentations, and that was their thing. And I feel like we're kind of getting to that point again, where we have so many well-educated Masons in the state. Like, we are I'm not saying other states don't. I just don't live in those states. But I know that we are a very fortunate state in that we have so many very intelligent, very prominent Masonic scholars that are willing to travel, and it's very refreshing to see that number is increasing. Right, we're getting every year. Like, some new guy pokes their head in. Like, I remember Kadeem was a new Mason. Right, we get someone new, and they just kind of poke their head in, and then they just embrace the fraternity, and before you know it, they're traveling everywhere, and then before you know it, they're giving talks everywhere, and it's very fulfilling, because like you said, like that wasn't a thing even recently, just a few years ago, and maybe it's a good thing they came out of the virus of unspecified origin, right? Because people, when we came back to lodge, they were excited and they were wanting to travel and do as much as they could, and I think that kind of created this new enthusiasm to get out and visit new lodges and speak and share, and it just hasn't gone away.
Interesting. That's an interesting thought, because I hadn't I'm one of those guys who refuses to give that period any kudos.
Mm-hmm.
Screw that time.
Yeah,
I don't want to say anything good came out of that time. Damn it.
Well, people always come racing out of the dark times, man. It was a dark time. It was a stupid time. And once we could start meeting again, I mean, we had people that they were just waiting, right? Bated breath, ready to go back. and just going to one lodge and waiting another 29 days, 30 days to go to another lodge wasn't enough. Like, hey, I'm going to go to all these lodges. I've been waiting for, how long was that? That was almost a whole year, wasn't it?
What
The prohibition on meeting.
It was from March till September because I could remember that I couldn't get raised as a Master Mason until it was all over with.
It felt a lot longer than that, but I think you had a lot of people that were they're just ready to hit the ground running. And hitting the ground running doesn't mean show up the next day to meeting and go home and wait another month, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to go check out this lodge, and this lodge, and this lodge. And honestly, the wives were probably very supportive because they just dealt with them staying at home for 3 or 4 months. Like, yeah, go, please. Go visit as many lodges as you want to.
Right. It's funny. Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. But thinking about it, after that time, that time gave me a lot of time to reflect and read and educate myself, and I came out of that a different Mason. I can definitely say that I am not the same speaker that I was, 3-4 years ago, for sure. I'm probably not the same speaker that I was 2 years ago, or even a year ago.
Well, that's the goal, though, right?
The difference that has made, it probably kicked me off a lot. It probably got me a lot further than I would have been if I hadn't gone through it.
Yeah. All right, guys, it's almost 11. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's funny, when I was a junior warden at my lodge, like I would actually do a lot of the educating stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would find little pieces to talk about in the lodge. But when I became senior warden, the junior warden that stepped in, he did it all, and I became less about figuring out what to say, is coordinating speakers for the next year and helping the junior warden figure out what to talk about. And as worshipful master now, I'm not really talking about much either. I'm just coordinating everything.
Well, we've talked about the importance of officers having roles, right? And what you did is you created a role for that position. And you did such a good job that the person after you just assumed that was the responsibility, one of the responsibilities of his role. And
Right.
and that's why you're still seeing it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is the takeaway on that scenario, is that you create this position to where, and you make it so good and so positive for your lodge that your lodge expects that as well. It's not just you as worshipful master expecting this officer to do this. The lodge is expecting that officer to do it because you did it so well, and they're expecting the same level of participation that you gave.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way we should all hold our lodges accountable, is by making sure that the people behind us are doing what we did, and then that way we're always growing and evolving. And at some point we may have to drop something off that we do because it's just too much.
Mm-hmm.
And you figure out what is no longer a part of that lodge culture that you kind of leave alone, and you evolve into your next self. But through that process, it is about creating that space of we can't do without this. And I think that's great. I think that's great.
All right. It's about 10 till. Let's go ahead and get our final thoughts in, and
Yep. Y'all go right ahead.
let's wrap it up. What about you guys? What do you got? Nobody?
Just
No.
kind of as a general announcement, we made the announcement on Facebook, but District 35 is having a candidate forum on September 7th at Guadalupe Lodge. So we had several candidates that have already committed. So if you're in this area, San Antonio all the way out to Gonzales up to this area. Be a good time to find out about the people running.
What do you mean about? Oh, you mean by like Grand Lodge officers?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Got you. I thought you meant like people petitioning. I was like, what? What do you?
No.
I was very interested. It's like, what are you all doing? Okay. Well, that's cool.
No. The
Yes,
Grand Lodge candidate forum.
Got you.
Yeah.
And all the candidates know about this already?
Yes.
And that's on the 7th?
Is that,
What's that?
What day
September
is it
7th.
again?
September 7th
Are y'all gonna be live streaming that?
at 7 p.m.
What time?
7 p.m.
That's the same day as the Lexington.
Okay. we don't have elected
candidates. You have candidates committed to going down there with the Grand Master.
here. Okay.
Okay.
Speaking of events, less than 6 weeks from now, at September 14th, we do have the esoteric, the internal and the external. And Brother Yates, I would like to get your help just making an outline of how we want to do that, kind of what the topics of discussion are.
Yeah.
To just so I can create an email and send it to everybody, or you can, or
Yeah. Let's set up a Zoom so that we can all talk about it.
Okay.
And then let's find out
probably
when
the best
everybody
way.
has some time, and let's set up a Zoom and all talk.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
I heard you had a good
And-
lineup, so that's gonna be exciting.
And I'll create that outline, but then that way we'll have something to talk on, in that Zoom, and kind of get all the final points out.
Great. Thank you.
Cool.
And then the week before is Lexington, and the week before that is the Scarlet Cord, the 3 Scarlet Cord degrees in Houston, along with the festive board for Holland Lodge that they have annually now. That's exciting. That's some cool stuff if you're looking for stuff in your area to go to. And then of course we'll have that deal in at Royce City on the 14th. And I got to tell you, Royce City is the perfect place to have it, because you can reach the brothers out in Greenville, as well as Rockwall, Richardson, Garland, Mesquite, Plano. That's not too far from Plano. In McKinney, that's not too far. And I know because I used to live there for, the first, 40 years of my life, 42 years of my life. And then, you can even touch other parts of Dallas close to, Irving. Irving can do it. So, really, there's a big stretch of brothers that could and should show up to this and make it a great event. But, yeah, that's always exciting.
Mm-hmm. Any more final
So-
thoughts, or Dennis, you want to go ahead and do yours?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
No, do your final thought.
Oh, well, I didn't really have anything today. This was a good conversation. I really enjoyed it. I want to kind of backpedal a little bit. We were talking about the lodges and being active, and the question was like, should it be the lodges that are active, or should it be a byproduct of us growing as men? And I think it's both. I think we grow as men and we get involved in our communities, but also you could do great things through the lodge, the community, like what Brother Kovar did with and Goliad Lodge did with the backpacks and everything. That's hard for just one person to do, regardless of what they're affiliated with. But if you get your organization behind you and something like that, you can do a lot of good things. And so it's a natural progression as you develop as a person, I think. also just if your lodge is struggling, like I told you how excited I was about the stuff we're doing at my lodge, and when people that haven't been step foot in there yet, when they see it, they're going to be excited too. And I've used this analogy before of like a church. Like if you get a new preacher, one of the first things they'll often do is like, hey, we need to build something like a new sanctuary or something, because that gets everybody. They get them excited. They get pumped up, and they're happy to see their new project come to life. And I think that's the best thing. If you have a lodge that's really struggling, and it feels like everything they're doing is just not getting any traction, then find something at your lodge that you can do. And it's easy to get traction on. Sometimes it's hard to get traction on abstract concepts, but if you can get traction on actual physical concepts, the abstract things will follow, I think. And so it might just be like, hey, let's just redo the floor. Let's pull the carpet up and see what's under. Like if it's hardwood floor, let's polish it and make it nice. Or maybe, hey, let's pull it up and put some wood tile on the concrete, make it look nice. But when people come in, watch the look on their face when they see how much nicer the room is versus the expectation they had in their mind. And then you can use that momentum. You'll drive momentum, and you can use that to hey, let's really focus on our education, or let's really focus on this project next. Whatever your lodge, like every lodge is different. You may have to do multiple projects, but not only will it benefit the hearts of your brothers, but first impacts are everything. First impressions are everything. And when someone walks into your lodge, and if there's clutter everywhere, if the tile has been there for 60 years, if the ceiling tiles are drooping and brown, and the paint is ugly, it's going to be really hard to impress anybody, right? And in fact, if that impresses somebody, you might really reevaluate if you really want them in your building or not. So that's just really something that's important to me, because we talk about zombie lodges, right? What does a zombie look like? It's falling apart, it's rotting, it's gross, and it has no brain, and it's going nowhere, right? But you can always tell a zombie when you see it in the movies, right? Why? Because it's falling apart and it's disgusting. And so if you don't want to be a zombie lodge, the easiest thing to do is start from the outside and work your way in, right? Like, hey, we don't want to look like a zombie lodge. Let's fix that. And then people will start taking pride, and things will start to fix themselves. Sometimes you can work the opposite way. Sometimes you can work the inside out. But I find it, most people, they're visual, right? They need to see, because to them, and to really the outside world, the state of your lodge from the outside looking in is a state of the health of that organization. And so if you have a healthy looking building and it's nice on the outside, and you go in and it's nice on the inside, people are going to think this is a healthy organization that I want to be part of. But if you got grass growing everywhere on the outside, giant cracks, and it needs to be repainted, and the bricks are ugly, and then you go in and you're immediately hit with like a smell, and the carpet has been there since 1960. It was probably shag at one point, and it's so worn down. That's not going to be the impression you want.
It was shag at the first place that it was resided, and then it became your lodge's carpet. And
yes, yeah. It was shag at one point, not necessarily there, but yeah. When someone else got tired of it, then you used it. Yeah, I agree. And so it's I don't know. I just think that's really important, being involved in your community as an individual and as a lodge, but also really taking pride in your organization. And here's the thing, like the lodge that I'm talking about does not have the financial capability to do this. It's the guys coming together. It's like, hey, I'm going to pitch in money. I'm going to pitch in money. I'm going to pitch in money. Let's get this. Let's buy it, and let's put it together and make this place a nicer place. This is like in the spirit of what Dennis was talking about. Like, we have to come together. The lodge needs to be the sum of the collaboration of its members, not just one or two people doing all the work. It needs to be the sum of the members coming together, be it financially or in person, and putting the work in. But it needs to be the accumulation of the efforts. This is how the great temples that we are coasting in now were built. It's because people came together and they put their resources together to build these things, and that's what I like to see. I'm very proud of my lodge for doing this, and we need to, as an organization, start being willing to do this. And I'm sorry, Dennis, I'm getting kind of winded, but there was a post on Texas Freemasons that kind of pissed me off because people were talking about the endowments. First of all, it kind of pissed me off because it means like you haven't read the law book, but also because they're like, "Where's all this extra money? Grand Lodge is using it for itself." That's fine. We if you want a Grand Lodge, if you want a nice building, then you have to be willing to come together and support that too, right? You can't just have a nice, beautiful building and just watch it fall apart. So we have to be willing to do that for our lodges. But also, if you believe in having a Grand Lodge, and if you like having a beautiful building, because some states do not have beautiful buildings, some states do not have buildings at all, then you have to be willing to come together and support that also. That's all I got.
Okay. First thing, Jason, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have barked at you like that. I know it wasn't you that made that decision, and I apologize. I want to get that off my chest. That was bothering me that I did it like that, and I apologize.
You're good.
I knew I was. You're good like that. I know. So, anyways, on Justin's note, the first thing, if you're asking, oh, where is all this money going? Why don't you visit a treasurer school online? They're free for all Masons in Texas. So, just shut up and educate yourself. I'm sorry. I'm so tired of hearing that kind of crap. The other thing is, if you don't like where the money's going, show up to Grand Lodge and vote.
Yep.
Every Mason every member of Grand Lodge has one vote. If you're not showing up, shut up. Number 2. That's my number 2 thought. Now you're hearing the other side of me. I've been my philosophical side. Now I'm going to just be my bereavement side. But no. So going back to what Justin was saying is, and he's absolutely correct. The lodge cannot always afford to do these things. So sometimes you need to have somebody that can fund stuff, and you just make sure that you're the person that, if you're not funding it, then you need to step up and be the person doing the work, putting in the work. It takes something from all of us. And I see a lot of people that fund things that also do the work, and then I see some guys that just stand on the sidelines and watch those guys do all the work and fund it and do all the work. But if you're a member of the lodge, take more pride in yourself and be a member of your lodge. And maybe we can get away from this garbage talk, calling it a lodge, and call it a temple the way it was originally intended to be. Mm-hmm. When we built these buildings, just like Justin said, when we built these buildings, they were temples. They were not lodges. We dumbed them down for the masses so that they wouldn't think anything of us. But at that same time, we also had a great understanding of who we were as Masons and what happened when we came through that door, and what happened when we did that first degree, and why it was so important that we were in temples and not in lodges. Completely takes the meaning away from our ritual when we dumb down our institution for the sake of the outside world. That being said, I truly believe that we should support our communities as a body. We should support our community and help those who can't help themselves. That's what we're called to do. What Josh did this past weekend was an excellent way of doing it. I don't think that that's all that we can do in our fraternity. I don't think that that's all we should be doing, is focusing on doing stuff like that, the charity work, the external charity work. That shouldn't be our only focus, like it is with some some people. I think that we should have people that love that type of work, but we also have to think about the charity at home. I was told years ago by my ex-mother-in-law that charity starts at home. And she was absolutely right. We forget that our charity in our fraternity, in our brotherhood, our charity is brotherly love and affection towards each other, and affording each other the opportunity to be the best person that they can be. Instead of coming to that brother with a negative attitude of this brother always does this or this brother always does that, how about we afford that brother the opportunity to be better with brotherly love and affection? And maybe we can afford that brother the opportunity to speak to us about the things that are heavy on his mind, no matter what it is, because it's affecting that brother. And if you can help him through that situation, that those thoughts that are in his mind, he can move his thoughts towards other things, like the greater good. Maybe that could be helping in brotherly love and affection. All this equates to, if we are going to be purposeful in our journey, in our travels, or if we're just going to be traveling. Some of us are just going to walk that road. We're just going to toil that road as we were told we had to do by somebody else. Or we're going to be the dynamic people that we are and create meaning along that path for us and those around us as we go. So we have choices. We have free will. God decided that we would have free will. And so with that being said, I think that we ought to utilize that to be the best that we can be and help our fraternity the best that we can, so that our fraternity can help the world the best that it can. And never be ashamed of who you are and what you stand for. If somebody else can't accept it, if they can't take it, then it just wasn't meant to be. It's not up to you to have to convince them to like it for any reason. There is value to each and every one of you, and you should support your fraternity with that value, because we need you. So otherwise, I think that this has been a great talk. We've gone through several different little rabbit holes that were kind of fun, that we haven't done in a while. It wasn't all about, lodge management. We took a little bit deeper thoughts into other things, which is kind of cool. And I think that might be a good idea for us to have a spook show during Halloween or whatever, and talk about the paranormal and
That'd
stuff
be
like
fun.
that.
Just a little
Maybe
break.
Yeah, talk a little bit about metaphysics and stuff like that, and how it can be possible and not be possible, whatever. And I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a physics scholar either, so it's going to be a learning experience for me. But anyways, brothers, thank you for being a part. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you liked it, subscribe. If you didn't like it, then don't just hit the thumbs up button, even if you didn't like it. That's all that we need from you. Not just kidding. If you liked us, subscribe, hit that button, follow us. And if you'd like to be on the show and be able to talk a little bit more with in the conversation, become a member. That's how you become an inner circle member that gets to speak on the show. And if you feel like you're having a tough time in your lodge, man, reach out to us. That's what we're here for. Every one of these brothers are here to help with your situation, but first you have to show up and be a part of the conversation.
Yep.
So with all that being said, we love you. Thank you for supporting us, and keep it between the points.
Later, everybody.
Y'all have a great evening.